Hey, what up, y'all? This is your host, Kenny. Welcome to Fandom Frequency, y'all, where we get into the entire multiverse of pop culture, baby. Anything that's fandom related, we talk about it. Comic books, music, anime, anything around that and in between. We talk about it around these parts. Click all the buttons below the video. It really does help the channel out immensely. We're trying to grow this community, grow the channel so we can get, more interviews, bigger guests, and other things like that as we move into the next phase or begin to establish ourselves to try to move into the next phase of our development of the show, of the team, all that good jazz. So make sure you're doing that and supporting the channel, sharing the videos, sharing the episodes, hitting up the podcast feed, clicking download. Everything like that really does help us out so much. But with no further ado, let's get into the main topic of discussion. You've seen the thumbnail. We're going to continue our review series for The World of Westeros, A Song of Ice and Fire, the adaptation that is Game of Thrones, baby. We're going from all the way season 1, all the way to the disappointing season 8. And right now, we are almost about smack dab halfway through. We're in season 3 right now. And we're going to get into it. With no further ado, don't touch that dial. So, as I mentioned earlier, we're continuing our Game of Thrones series review. We're going to be covering all 8 seasons of Game of Thrones, ranking the show, ranking the characters, and doing some stuff like that as we wait and anticipate for the second season of House of the Dragon. For those of you that may not keep up with all the pop culture news going on in the industry itself, there is a writer's strike going on with the Writers Guild of America, the WGA. All the main writers that write all the films and TV shows that we all watch and go out to see on a regular basis. Everyone, all those writers are going out on strike. A lot of projects are getting delayed and whatnot. Supposedly, House of the Dragon Season 2 is not going to be delayed due to these writer strikes, and apparently they're going to move forward and shoot with the scripts that they already have completed and not worry about doing any more rewrites, supposedly. So fingers crossed that they can land the ship and get it right and continue moving on with the greatness that was House of the Dragon in Season 1 into the next season to come next year in 2024. But it's time to talk about the topic here at hand, and we're talking about Game of Thrones Season 3. Trace, baby. We're getting into it right now. And let me get the year right quick, but it has been a minute since the 3rd season. A Game of Thrones, man. It's been a minute. It has been exactly just over a decade since the premiere and initial run of the 3rd season of Game of Thrones. And giving y'all some background on myself, if you're just joining us during this 3rd installment of our review series and haven't caught up on the first 2 seasons and don't have any background on your boy right here and us personally here on the channel and the team, my boy Skippy, you guys might have seen him before, one of the main producers and hosts of the co-hosts of the show, actually did watch the initial run of the series while it was on back when people our age were in our early to midway through high school and whatnot, junior, sophomore year and stuff like that, and watched it all the way through the initial run until about 5 years ago when the show had wrapped up. And so he's like not necessarily a hardcore fan, but was someone that saw the series from when it initially dropped. And other people like C-Dub and Miguel and Andrew, they haven't watched the series at all. I haven't watched anything until I started doing the review series after I watched the first season of House of the Dragon. Once Curiosity of Dragons and the prequels setting up the overall universe piqued my interest, fell in love with that. And after watching the first 2 seasons, I am fully in love with this show now. Really dope series. The first season really kicked things off to a great start. Season 2 just built off of that, built up the character of Tyrion Lannister, really fleshed out the world, fleshed out the characters, and introduced new antagonists in new corners of Westeros that we hadn't visited before. And Season 3 definitely doubles down on that aspect. And just getting into my overall thoughts on the season as a whole, I like the season a hell of a lot. I will say, though, the first half definitely felt like a lot more of a slow pace, slow burn setup for all the big plot lines to come and kind of leading the army of the Five Kings forward and kind of leading towards the conclusion of the war. And while all these things that were going on in the first 3 to 4 episodes of this season were all very crucial to the character development of all these characters in the world, to the story development, to setting up a lot of these plot points that are going to, that are going to be huge factors to pay off in the future for the future seasons to come. So I definitely see what the writers and what the creators were doing at the time, but it's just a lot of characters traveling to different destinations and a lot of conversations and plans getting made and moves getting put together in order to end the War of the Five Kings or whatever. And I just felt like there was a lot of slow pace build up. And while there were some very interesting storylines going on with Breen and Jaime Lannister trying to get him back over to King's Landing after she had pledged a vow to Catelyn Stark before her untimely passing. Spoiler alert, if you ain't already seen it in the thumbnail by now, we're going to be getting into some major shit. Goddamn that red wedding, but hold off, we're going to get into that in a bit. But wow. But once we get into like episode 4, episode 5, episode 6, and once we get towards the last 2 episodes with the red wedding and everything that happens in the conclusion of the season, setting up the end of the war, setting up all the crazy shit going down with the Starks and the Lannisters, and then making their power play to inevitably win the war at the end of the day. Wow, that second half of the season just totally kicked things up into high gear and led everything going into season 4 for a very, very strong continuation of the series. And just a little spoiler alert and just a little peek behind the curtain, I have already watched the 4th season of Game of Thrones, and I'm almost about halfway through the 5th season now. So you're going to be getting those next 2 season reviews between now and mid-June, and we're going to be putting it on a short hiatus to get into Secret Invasion and some other fun projects I have planned for the channel. So we're going to take a short break and then get into the final 3 seasons of Game of Thrones into like July and August, ending out the summer and whatnot. So don't you worry, y'all. We got at least 2 more installments of this season review coming at y'all real soon, but the series review coming at y'all real soon. So yeah, so overall, I really dug the 3rd season. Wasn't as strong as the first 2 overall, in my personal opinion. A little too much setup, a little too much characters traveling and walking around. Feel like they just kind of stretched out all the plot lines as long as they could have to make everything extend through the season to kind of be the stepping stone to the next big inevitable aftermath after the war, setting up a lot of big plot points to come. And goddamn, season 4 is a hell of a thing right there. So it really does lead into that next season really nicely. Very strong finale. Goddamn, like I said, the red wedding is just absolutely insane shit that has had me literally yelling at the TV. I wish I could have recorded the reaction because I was going ape shit on that one. Crazy shit, man. But yeah, so really dug the season overall. Might be the weakest season of the show so far, but still a damn good season of television. And getting into some of the main character arcs and storylines that I was really, really thoroughly invested in or thought could have used improvement. Either or. Starting off with my girl Daenerys Targaryen leading her quest to become the ultimate power that be, to build up her army, build up her nations, get ships, and build up her resources while her dragons continue to grow up so she can make her claim for the Iron Throne and sail west across the Narrow Sea over to Westeros and King's Landing in order to take back what was taken away from her father, which was taken away from her family when they killed the Mad King, who was her father and her brother and aunt and everything like that. Her brother, mom, aunt, everything and in between. Killed off the rest of the Targaryen clan, all that good jazz. So she is headed out for revenge and to take back what is her birthright, and she is making some big moves in order to do so because she ends up inevitably building out her army into being a much more stronger unit, while now she doesn't just have the Dothraki, now she has enlisted the help of the Unsullied, hundreds of slaves that were under the ownership of this old Valyrian douchebag guy in this foreign country. I think it was either Pentos, might have been Pentos, somewhere. Not Pentos, sorry. I'm mixing up my locations. It was a different location outside of Westeros, outside of the main country, if you will. far, far away from King's Landing across the narrow sea. She was at this one place, got the unsullied slaves, freed them, and had them as her personal army, but gave them a choice to join her if they chose so. And that's kind of been a big theme of Daenerys going through all these seasons, and is one thing I absolutely love about the character, is how she's so passionate about liberating people from slavery and from the downtrodden lifestyle that does come with all that stuff, and freeing the people that don't have the power to do it themselves, and also inspiring people to take power into their own hands and to rise up against their masters, which definitely plays off quite a bit into seasons 4 and 5 as well. So the whole setup with the way that goes down with her recruiting her army of the Unsullied is a really, really awesome development. Her recruiting that old Valyrian kind of translator, I forget the girl's name right now, but really good actress, really interesting side character as well. Really dug what they've been doing with her. I'm going to have her name and have the character on the screen there because I just can't pull the name right now off the top of my head. But very talented, beautiful young actress and awesome side character that does a lot, has a lot of great dialogue scenes back and forth with Daenerys throughout seasons 3 and beyond. So really, really dug her character and love what's going on with Daenerys' storyline. While it had a little bit of a slow start, like a lot of the other storylines, once we get to the part of her enlisting the Unsullied as her new army, burning up the dude with her dragons in their teenage years right there before they get fully grown, and just seeing Daenerys make her power play and really rise up and free the people, it was just so awesome and so fun to watch. So I'm just really loving Daenerys Targaryen. Might be my favorite character, but she's definitely up there in my top 3, no doubt. And getting into one of my other favorite characters of the show, my boy Tyrion Lannister. He just woke up from getting damn near killed during the Battle of Blackwater and the end of season 2 there. And luckily he ended up surviving. But the unfortunate part of what went down was the fact that they were gonna have Joffrey go out there to try to lead the army, if you will, right? But he chickened out. Cersei ordered them to have him go to his quarters. He pussied out, went back to the castle, went to his quarters or whatever, and Tyrion actually leaded the charge against Stannis Baratheon and his men, and actually helped protect the castle and led the charge until Tywin came with the Tyrell clan as well, or the Tyrell family, and came in with them and the other Lannister army and ended up taking out the rest of those fools. But he ended up sending one of his own Lannister men to try to take out Tyrion, who thankfully and luckily inevitably survived the situation. But all credit of what he did leading the charge is completely erased from history and will not be addressed, and is going to be completely covered up FBI style, you know what I'm saying? So really, really hate the way that went down for my boy, but no big surprise there, because Tyrion is always shitted on, man. He's just that underdog of the story that I'm always rooting for. I really connect to the most in the overall world of Westeros and Game of Thrones, and he's just one of those few characters in the show that, for the most part, is a fully good-hearted character that cares about those around him and does what he can and fights hard to protect those that he loves.
What did you do to them?
Lots of things.
And they seem to like these things?
Yes, my lord.
Of course they seem to like it. They're paid to seem to like it.
Only they weren't paid.
What are you saying? These ladies enjoyed him so much they gave him the time for free?
Is that what you're telling us? Sit down, Podrick. We're going to need details. Copious details.
So really loved everything going on with him, and just felt so bad for him throughout the season, trying to keep Shay happy, trying to gain favor with the family, trying to adjust to not being the king's hand anymore. Now that his dad has came back from the war's over, he's taking his place, taking his rightful place as Hand of the King, because Tyrion was only his substitute, really filling in for him. So he lost his status, doesn't get the credit for what he did, and now has to find a way to move forward. And I just felt so bad for my boy Tyrion this season, and I'm always just riding right there with him and his whole complicated relationship and issues going on with Shay, because she wants him to leave King's Landing, but he doesn't, because he feels like he has finally found a knack for something and wants to stay in King's Landing, in the capital, to try to sway favor and get some kind of power of his own and build on the family legacy that he feels that he's always kind of screwed out of. So I really love the dynamic of their relationship back and forth, and things definitely start to go south from here. And just a spoiler alert for things to come, Shay definitely is not quite as good as she seems, and definitely you start to see shades of that popping up here. And another storyline that was very, very interesting to me was Melisandre over there trying to seduce Robert Baratheon's bastard son. I think his name was Gimli or something like that. Can't quite remember, but his illegitimate son or whatever, that Cersei, his actually blood related son that was completely abandoned and left over there in Flea's Bottom to live out the rest of his years. She tries to seduce him to get his blood in order to make this sacrifice to put curses on 3 specific individuals, and those individuals are Tywin Lannister, if I'm not mistaken. The second one was Robb Stark, and what was the third person? Who was the third person that she cursed? Oh, Joffrey as well. And all of that does seem to come to fruition throughout the rest of the show, because as we've seen with the Brotherhood the Brotherhood that bears no banners, or whatever the hell they're called, the Robin Hood and the Merry Men guys, essentially, they worship the Lord of Light, and we see that the Lord of Light does seem to be legit, because the guy was getting resurrected and shit when he was going against the Hound or whatever with Arya in the previous season. So there's some really, really big things to come from that. So we know the Lord of Light does seem to be a legit thing. It's still a little bit unclear if Melisandre is just using her potions and hallucinogens to make people see visions in the fire in order to manipulate people into doing what she wants, to put her in the position that she wants to be in order to become queen of Westeros with her man, Stannis Baratheon, and will fuck and seduce anyone in order to get what she needs to do in order, it's all the means to an end. So it's very, very interesting seeing what's going on with Melisandre. She's such a captivating, creepy, and just ultimately interesting character that you're not exactly sure what side she's on, but there's definitely a lot more negative than positive going on there. But with her backstory of being a slave and being someone that got liberated from that and had to fight for her freedom and had to find her way out in the universe, or out in the world of Westeros, I should say, and has found her way into the position that she is in now today, is very interesting, and I'm just always super duper interested in Melisandre as a character, and you just find her the mystique of her character to be such a big strong suit, and I just love the way that they're developing the character and use her in these very pivotal ways for the story without making it shoehorned and making it feel organic to the storyline. So I really absolutely love everything going on with Lady Melisandre and everything like that. And the Jon Snow storyline with the wildlings, while I think in the previous season was starting to get a little bit stale, I think in this third season, once we got into that second half and they get back and everything like that, he ends up betraying them, going back to the Crows, if you will, going back to the Night's Watch, and with him and Ygritte essentially breaking up from that point, the whole tragic Romeo and Juliet vibes going on with that. Really dug that aspect of the storyline, especially when Jon Snow had that confrontation with the wildling guys, when they were getting back close to the wall, when Bran and Hodor and all those other guys were held up in that tower and everything like that. I love the way that all that plot came back around, and that set up the ultimate conflict with the wildlings and the Night's Watch that definitely comes to a head in a major way in the fourth season. So love the way they were able to set that up, and while it had a little bit of a slow start, it had a very strong middle and finish, and really set up some really cool conflicts and confrontations between the characters, and just can't wait, or at the time when I was watching, I just couldn't wait to see what was going to happen with Jon Snow, the wildlings, and when they were going to finally make their attack with their thousands of men on the wall, because as we know, the Night's Watch only have a few hundred men, so they definitely don't stand quite a chance on it. So it was really, really cool to get to see the setup of how that was all coming ahead and the whole confrontation that went down with those guys. So really, really loved all of that was going on. And I definitely don't want to leave out my girl Arya Stark and the Hound, her continuing her journey with him. And now they're trying to make their way over to get back over there to Winterfell to get back with Robb Stark and Catelyn Stark before the war's over, and return her to her family, so that way the Hound can get a big payday and get a reward for that. That's kind of been the big journey that he's on throughout seasons 3 and 4, and as we find out soon enough, they got there just too late because the Red Wedding goes down and shit has officially hit the fan. And we're going to get into that storyline right there with Robb Stark and the war at hand with the 5 kings and Catelyn Stark and all the confrontation with the way that he ended up pissing off House Frey because he was supposed to marry one of Lord Frey's daughters, but chose his wife instead, the girl that he ended up marrying, because he fell in love with her and had a genuine connection there and didn't want to pursue that arranged marriage, which ultimately led to them losing, getting a very big losing streak in the war after he had that winning streak in seasons 2. Once he became king of the North, he ended up going on a streak of losses and started losing a lot of men in battles because they just didn't have enough resources and had to try to make things right. And Robb wanted to apologize formally to Lord Frey and inevitably marry off his uncle to one of Frey's daughters in order to kind of make a union between their houses in a different way, just not with Robb, obviously, because he's already married and he has a kid on the way as well, because his girl comes up to him and tells him in the middle of the season that she's pregnant, and they're not sure if it's a boy or girl yet, but she is in the early stages of her pregnancy, and they have a baby on the way. So Robb wants to make things right, win the war, end things off, bring peace for his family, especially since he has a baby on the way in less than a year. So he's definitely trying to make moves to end the war and be on the winning end of things. And when they go over there to Lord Frey's place, go to have the wedding, the uncle was very hesitant of it, but he ends up getting married to one of the prettiest girls in Frey's family because he has a ton of girls, man. So Lord Frey was getting busy at a certain time. And everything's going great. They're about to, have the bride and groom go consummate their marriage and everything like that. They're going through the traditions of how everyone's like, all right, it's time for them to fuck. Yay! You know, that weird tradition that they do over there in the North. And once they do that and the uncle and everyone's taken off to their quarters, which I inevitably would assume they got killed as well, because a straight up mad, crazy ass killing spree begins when this dude runs up behind Robb's freaking wife, stabs her in the fucking stomach several times. And remember, I said she was pregnant, so that already blew my mind. Stabs her a bunch of times, slits her throat to some crazy shit, kills her straight up, and they kill every Stark family member that's there. Robb gets shot with hella arrows and gets stabbed with a sword. Catelyn ends up killing one of Lord Frey's daughters and tries to hold him hostage to bargain for Robb's life, but that doesn't work. She ends up getting her throat slit and gets killed. Every single Stark family member that was there, I'm pretty sure, was completely killed and obliterated, and there was an entire massacre in a matter of minutes. Shit was fucking crazy. They killed the wolves, they killed the horses, they killed the kids, they killed the women, they killed everyone. They killed fucking everybody, man. I was on the edge of my seat like, holy shit, is this really happening? God damn, how can they get away with this? Holy shit. Like, I was anticipating the Red Wedding for the whole season because I was like, it's got to be in the next couple seasons here. Because season 5 and beyond, I don't think some of these characters are around anymore. From what I can tell from some of these previews and pictures and things of the past and whatnot. And I was right. And holy shit, even though I was aware of the Red Wedding, I still was not prepared for it. And let me tell you, if you haven't seen that shit, if you have not seen that sequence go down, you ain't ready for it, son. You ain't ready for it. And if it doesn't faze you or trip you out in any way, you might need to go talk to some doctors. But the Hound and Arya get there, I guess, at the best time or they get there at a bad time, but a good time at the same time, because since she wasn't there, she doesn't get wiped out with the rest of them, but now the rest of her family got killed, and she never got to say goodbye or see them again. So it's a very, very mixed bag and a very bittersweet moment right there. And it's just crazy how every time she almost gets to where she's going, the people end up getting killed. Like, that curse, there is a Stark family curse, man. I'm not going to get into too much in the things that come for season 4 and beyond in case you're watching along with me and haven't watched the 4th season yet. But goddamn, I've watched ahead, but woo, I'm telling you from the future, crazy shit goes down. And let me tell you, Arya Stark's luck does not get too much better. Neither does Sansa's. But yeah, man. So a lot of interesting stuff going on throughout the season. And one storyline I did not highlight enough so far was Jaime and Breen'S storyline and the whole way that they were able to develop Jaime Lannister's character to make him a fully three-dimensional character with flaws, that's made mistakes, but is fully relatable as a character and is actually on somewhat of a redemptive arc because he ends up getting held captive this whole time during the war, ends up having to, gets treated very badly, ends up getting his hand cut off, gets treated like shit, and he's used to being treated like, like he's the best, like he's the shit, and he's the best thing since sliced bread because of his family lineage and all that. But with these guys, they don't give a shit. So Breen is over there, and she ends up getting taken captive for a bit too when she tries to rescue and take him back, and everything just goes south, man. Like I said, he gets his right hand cut off, I believe. So he's just going through a whole terrible time, Luke Skywalker style. You know what I'm saying? Except it wasn't his father that did the cutting. And yeah, so really love the redemptive arc they're doing with Jaime Lannister. And even though he does some things in the future, even past this season, that I don't necessarily agree with, he still is much more of a likable character and has much more positive qualities that you wouldn't expect. And the whole way that he gets into the backstory of when he actually killed the Mad King and what was actually going down is truly a harrowing story, and you can't blame the guy for doing what he did. And I love the way that it all comes back around full circle and recontextualizes everything you heard about what was going on with the Mad King and at King's Landing and with the whole Seven Kingdoms just prior to the show picking up and where it took place. So I love the way that that all goes down. This was definitely a very, very good season. I just think it had a little bit too much of a slow start and the pacing wasn't the greatest. I think they stretched out all the storylines a little too much. But once we get into those last 4 to 5 episodes, it is absolutely phenomenal. I would say even 5 to 6. It is absolutely phenomenal. Really, really, really dug the season. And like I said, the Red Wedding is just absolutely mind fuckery at its finest. So if you haven't watched this season and you don't care about spoilers and you want to get into the show, do it. Let me know where this season lands for y'all in your overall ranking. Just don't give me any details about season 4 and beyond in the comments yet, guys. I've only seen up until season 5. Don't want to spoil anything for any of the viewers catching up with us and watching along season to season. We appreciate each and every one of you watchers/listeners for the review series and for the channel as a whole. We got a lot of fun content to come. I got a vlog on the way. We're going to be doing a fun event this weekend. Also got some movie reviews and things like that coming through. The Fandom FM podcast, where we talk about music and audio exclusively, is going to be dropping another episode this week. We're going to be getting back on track with that after its little short hiatus. So make sure you stay tuned. Don't sleep on any of the dopeness we got going on here on the channel. And until next time, make sure you stay safe out there, and we'll see you again real soon. Peace.